We normally look outside for grace. We think grace is outside us and it has to come to us in some form or through some energy of some kind, some sound or some place or some person, and so on. And as long as we think in this way, we are constantly dividing ourselves and imagining ourselves to be a limited entity, and then thinking that grace is coming from outside and somehow going to save us. And this is the premise upon which so many religions put forth saviors and so on. And because of our identification with the egoic image, we consider ourselves to be a limited entity that requires to be saved, and we look for someone to save us from outside. And in this, there is duality, not only duality, but there is, in extreme cases, even exploitation. But even in normal cases, there is always a postponement because we think it will happen sometime, some event will happen, some person will come, some place we go to. So, in some ways or the other, we want to escape from here and now by projecting grace as coming from outside us at some point, through someone, at some time, and so on. And as long as we believe in that, that future never comes, because whenever it comes, it has to come only now. And so now is the only portal to grace. And grace is always available here and now. The grace that is ever present is hidden because of identification with an image, which is seeking grace. As long as we identify with an image of me and we think we need grace, grace doesn't seem to be coming forth, because the very identification is the cloud that covers grace. Grace is like the sun that shines all the time, and we cover it up and then we look for it. That is the irony or the paradox. So, when we recognize this, that this is our root source of ignorance, is that in the very looking for grace, we are denying grace. Grace is all here is. It's been mentioned by every great sage. Grace is all here is, because it is what is expressing itself in infinite ways. It is the very expression of our own being and of all that there is. So if we, instead of looking for grace, if we simply look within, then we recognize the grace that's available simply by being attentive to what is. When we look at all the ways in which we make images within, identify with those images, and then thereby create division and suffering, when we are aware of all this, that very awareness dissolves it. If we simply remain very attentive to every movement of thought, every game that the mind plays, we just have to be aware of it. We don't have to do anything else, but simply remain very alertly aware of every little movement of the mind. As we are sitting, as we are talking, as we are walking, Whatever we do, if we are simply remaining aware of all the movements of the mind, how it is creating this voice in the head, and it is projecting an image from the past, and it is thereby dividing itself. If we are simply aware of all this, that very awareness is grace. By remaining aware of all that rises, we see that it is just phenomena coming and going, and that's not me. We are otherwise unconsciously identified as me, and the very me that's identified with all these images of various kinds of pettiness and so on also wants to come upon grace. But when we recognize that the very images are the ones that are preventing grace, then grace is here. That happens not through seeking grace, but through remaining aware of the divisions that are denying grace. So when we just remain fully aware, looking at all the movements of thought, and just requires again awareness. We cannot expect something to descend from above. This expectation is what creates all kinds of divisions, because then we project an image of this thing above, and there is difference in the images, and there is conflict and so on. All there is just the one divine essence that is within and without. And it is first recognized within and seen as also without. And it is recognized within by denying the false me through awareness. When we are simply alertly aware, then we see all the ways in which this movement of thought as me is hijacking our consciousness and masquerading as the I. And when we see all these various false avatars of I, that is meditation. When we simply see that very clearly, and we thereby remain naturally not caught in it, because the very awareness makes us remain not identified with it. And when we are not identified with it, it simply dissolves. And then what remains is the silence, which is grace, which is love, which is wisdom and clarity. So grace is here and now, and we just have to be free of the false image that's seeking it, and thereby abide in grace here and now.